Hello everyone. Very good morning from Bangladesh. Welcome to our today's session of Meet the Global Leader. We organized this session for the students of Bangladesh who are currently studying at the universities. The objective of this webinar is to showcase the skills development, skills implementations, and how professionals from different countries are doing their roles, they're completing their tasks in their professional sector, and their professional journey from their university, and how did they start, and all their lessons they have learned so far with the students through this webinar, so that it will create an awareness among students how to develop skills, implement skills, and how they can more prepare themselves before graduations for their professional career. So today, welcome to our webinar on sustainable finance, and we're thrilled to have you join us today as we explore critical intersection of finance and sustainability. And it is my great pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest speaker, Ms. Francesca, a leading expert in sustainable finance and impact investing. With a wealth of experience in the field, she has dedicated her career to promoting sustainable development through innovative financial solutions. And her journey into sustainable finance is both inspiring and insightful. So we're going to learn a lot of new things from her. So Francisco, welcome to our session. Francisco, welcome to our session.
Thank you, Hope, and it's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to talking a bit more about my journey, and if anyone has questions, to go through them. Should I give a little intro um, of my background?
Yeah. If you share background and a little bit about your university life, how was your student life, and what did you learn when you were a student?
Sounds good. And just for context, at the moment I am consulting with UNDP. It's a United Nations agency with focus on sustainable finance. I'm based in Singapore. Prior to this role, I was working for an impact investor, so private sector, where we were investing in companies in South Asia and Southeast Asia for enterprises that had a development impact. In terms of student life, I have very good memories, and I wish I could go back. Some of my happiest moments, because the learning curve has been really good, and being in like student environments, learning from other peers, I think is one of the best opportunities you have to really grow, more so maybe than work-wise and on personal levels. Um, I've studied finance to begin with in my undergrad, and then I did a master's in international development and management. So I think because of the combination of the two, because typically through the finance pathway, you might be more directed to banking or accounting roles, but then after merging with the international development postgrad pathway, it was like I think both converged and led me to where I am now, which is leveraging finance for sustainable development. But especially my last 2 years of university were very important in like formulating what I think is sustainable development, what I think are the best models to pursue it. I think initially I started working for NGOs, but then more navigated towards private sector, and now working with governments. But very crucial in terms of leading me where I am.
Great. And like when people, when I must say students, in some cases hear about like sustainability, the word, and finance. It's like a finance is also very difficult because there are the thing it includes a lot of maths, a lot of calculations. So like there is this misconceptions about like science or technology, machine learning, or it can be this kind of sustainability. So if you share in brief what is sustainability means to you, and what is sustainable finance?
Yeah, thanks. And the good news is, if you don't have the maths background, you can still pursue very much so the sustainability uh, area, and vice versa. If you want to go into more of the finance stuff, you can still do it even if you don't have that background, because these are all things you can definitely learn along the way. But in terms of what it means to me, it's like a balancing of making sure that whatever transition we're making, it will be fair and just towards the environment, because this is something that maybe most people would think of when they think of sustainability. But we want, like, in my opinion, like, we are inclusive of environment and people as well. So sustainability in a way that is also fair and just for people across the globe, not just certain segments. And yeah, I think that also defines the whole sustainable development agenda, making sure we build better societies that respect the environment, don't create more stress from, like, in terms of environment, planetary boundaries, if that's some familiar terms for who's here. Make sure indigenous populations, for example, also have fair transitions, and yeah, whoever on this planet, regardless of where they are, who they are, will have a future that is good for all, with good terms. And with sustainable finance, it's, the definition there would be to mobilize capital in a way that achieves these objectives. So investing in companies that create better, that maybe improve climate, make, again, so making sure we don't distress the planet Earth even more, investing in companies that work towards that, or at the same time investing in companies that promote education or make healthcare more accessible to people living in rural areas. So it can be many things. And then in the field of sustainable finance, certain investors would focus on one or the other. In my journey, I was able to work on all of this because we would define the investors I work with as sector agnostic, meaning it's not an investor that only invests in sustainable agriculture, but can do also microfinance or, again, healthcare and so on. So for me, it's a very sustainability, sustainable finance, a very inclusive term that makes a bright future for all, taking into account planet and people.
Great. And why it is very crucial in today's world?
Because the world is sort of falling apart. Sorry to be a bit dark, but I'm very optimistic that with joint collaboration and capital moving in the right direction, we can significantly turn this narrative. But with climate change, with conflicts around the world, pandemics, a lot of discrimination and injustice, all we need is to catalyze and shift all of this narrative into making it fair for all.
Great. Like when students graduate and they start their career, so a percentage of student or them share that what they study at university is mostly irrelevant for what they're doing. So how was it for you that things that you studied at the university and the thing that you are doing in your real career or like a real professional sector? So how was the gap, and how was the situation for you in the beginning?
Yeah. Actually, when I studied, the terms impact investing never came up. I think it was like very, very new already 10 years ago or a bit more. So again, this is something that I built throughout my career through different paths. So working in the non-for-profit sector, I came across, because these new models were coming up more and more. Even to date, it's new for like philanthropists that purely did grants. Now they're moving towards sustainable finance because it's a business model that is more sustainable than just pure grants. So there was a gap in the sense that what I'm doing now, it's not necessarily what I studied, but what I did was really learning as you go. So there's plenty of resources online. So at the time when I was making the transition to impact investing, without prior academic knowledge, was to learn a bit by myself, doing my own research. Again, at the time there were already plenty of materials, so I would expect today there's even more that are more accessible, that are free. So do your own research in your free time, or if you're really working on something and you can complement, it can also be very much aligned and not completely different from what you're already doing. I'm sure there's always way to synergize things. And second, talk to people in the field. So I had maybe an Excel file where I would list companies to follow, for example, on LinkedIn, but people that I would want to talk to. So I would reach out, ask if they had time to meet up, whether in person if they were in the country where I were, or online. And just to do the network in that way, learn from them what are the resources I should look at. And I think, that's how I bridge that gap of, I did not study this, but still I can still learn it in the present.
Absolutely. This mindset is very important because sometimes graduates think that by by hook or by crook, if they get into professional sector, this is it. Their life is set. They'll just go to office and do their regular tasks and return to home, and this is the regular routine. But in most cases they do not update themselves by but just you have mentioned doing research or meeting people, this kind of learning mentality, not a continuous learning. So that is why sometimes the career is stuck, and sometimes they are out of the job. So according to you, how do you suggest that this mindset can actually hamper the growth in the professional career? So how do you actually develop yourself in your career?
I think I would consider my own journey as an example of that, because when I was working in the nonprofit, like regular development sector, I thought, okay, there's no way I can move into impact investing because I've never worked for an investment bank or a private fund. So I was like very hopeless in a way. And that's why I like talking to people, going to meetups. In Bangladesh, there is a big ecosystem for that. If people want to take note, I was in like online events with the Bangladesh angel investors network, very big. And then if you look at the AVPN, which is this network again of ASEAN venture philanthropy.
So a VPN.
Yeah, AVPN. They have a section on Bangladesh as well. So through these, you can definitely look up what's going on and go to those meetups, those conferences. They always look up for volunteers. So if you're a beginner of your career, something that I did maybe at the time was also show up in these events where tickets might be up to $1,000. It's insane, but that's because companies would pay for their employees to go. But if you are a student, they have either student passes, some of them, or possibility to volunteer. And again, you would volunteer to maybe a receptions, but that would still give you a room to be in that room, in that table, meet with people, mingle, listen, and then do your follow-ups for like one-on-one meetings or more things to look and read up afterwards. So definitely do not feel stuck. I made that transition too, by having no skills. And I remember the first role I had in impact investing, it was all new tasks I've never done before, but because I was passionate, I'd done my research. These were all things that I could learn by doing. So in the end, it worked out very well. It might feel like, it might be very intimidating to begin with, but really, if you're passionate and meet the right people that can support you or mentor you, then it's definitely a transition that is easy to make.
Great. All through your professional career, what are the key skills that have been helping you to go further,
Okay.
and how?
So a lot of soft skills more than hard skills, I have to say, and maybe that's because of my background. I had to leverage those. I never studied, science or maths. I think something that helped me was being able to talk to different audiences, and to choose like styles of communication, because in these roles you often really meet with very different people. So if you're an investor, you might talk to an entrepreneur that wants to be invested in, and then you would talk to your own investors, so the governments that put millions into your fund to spend on startups. And then you would talk to regulators, like central banks, or whoever gives you the license to invest. So these are very different audiences. And what helped me was maybe being in a place where I was able to really understand in my role what was talking to, and be able to connect the dots. I give you an example. There's more, but that's something that I bring up as well in my interviews. So when I apply for jobs, but I think that was really crucial, being able to really diversify the way you communicate and you work with people. Because if maybe in the past with more traditional jobs you are confined to a certain role and tasks, I find it in this sector that is more dynamic, where philanthropists become investors now want to talk to philanthropists to build new innovative financing models, then you need to be able to talk to all these different audiences. And so when I was with the private sector investor, because of my previous jobs with NGOs where I was talking to donors, then I was able to have those discussions. And now as well that I'm working with governments, primarily with the UN, I'm able to also work very well with private companies when we have those partnerships, because that's exactly what I was doing before. So I think that's something very valuable that not always you might see or sell in a CV, but in practice, being able to talk to people and communicate well is something very crucial.
Absolutely. And this continuous learning skills are always give an edge to excel. So there is another misconception that if you start your career here in Bangladesh, if you start your career in one sector or one industry, you cannot switch, or you get the seal that you are from that industry, and you have to shift or move around different companies from that industry. So how was it for you, like the transition from non-profit, from impact investment? How was the experience for you, and how did you decide, no, I want to shift my career to this industry or this sector?
Yeah. So I started my career in Cambodia with an internship first, and then with more regular contracts. And that was in the development sector. It's like traditional aid, humanitarian or development aid, for a few years. And I'm not sure if people are familiar with the Cambodian context, but here it was like very, very saturated with NGOs. and not all were, not all were very ethical, and others would just create a lot of dependency for communities. And so what I started to think about as I was working for one of them was, is this really the most sustainable way to create, to make positive change in society? And I had a few doubts in terms of the model. And there's amazing NGOs, and some of them now are switching to more what they called market system development. So really trying to change, like improve the market by working with entrepreneurs and not just giving grants for the sake of. Of course, there's different contexts. Like in a conflict context, you'll have to provide cash vouchers and food. But in other contexts where you really want to create development that is sustainable, I was kind of questioning what is the best way to do so. And that's when I then learned about impact investing and started studying it, meeting with people, and I got very fascinated. And I think to this date, it's been 6 years now, I truly think it's one of, in my opinion, the most ethical and best models to create positive change, because you are investing money directly into local entrepreneurs that are scaling companies that are doing well for their communities, for the environment, and then it just creates a very positive cycle of sustainability, more so than just giving a grant as a donor and then disappearing from the country, because maybe the country has elevated from low income to middle and then they disappear, but the market is still struggling. So I think by working with the private sector and the governments, it's a better solution. So that's how I got super fascinated, started learning more. How can I come in from the skill set that I currently have? Because again, as I mentioned at the beginning, I didn't have finance I studied, but I never worked with numbers. And so I was trying to really make an assessment, okay, with the skills I have now, where can I go in? And maybe we'll get there with their questions, but in the field of impact investing, there are very different roles that you can get in. And so I was trying to understand, okay, which one would fit best for me to make a transition, and then I made my way in.
Absolutely, and this is important because there is a term called transferable skills. So, in today's world, if you are valuable to any industry or any organizations, you can, like anyone can switch industry sector. This is very important. And you've been mentioned several times impact investment. So like today's world is all about impact. You have also mentioned climate, improving climate. So there are a lot of rising impact entrepreneurs. So if, say for example, students know about there is a opportunity for getting investment if they work with something impactful. So if you share in brief, uh, what impact investor consider before investing, and how students can leverage or how they can work on developing some an idea to get access to this impact investment.
Thanks. So first of all, maybe for who's curious, so in impact investing, there's a sort of spectrum, and you'll find graphs online for that, especially when you start the e-learning courses that I mentioned, whereby you could consider an investor impact first or finance first. So the impact first investors are those that would be happy to sacrifice maybe profit to have like a greater social or environmental impact. And then there's the finance first investors, where they just want market rates or above market rate returns. And so they would be happy to maybe have a less of a strong impact thesis, social or environmental, but making sure that they will get their shares, their value back, and a higher profit. So this is sort of the context. So what would an impact investor, and I can maybe look at the example of the one that I worked for in the last few years. What we were looking at, so we were impact first. So we will, but at the same time, we would have market rate returns. So we would not even sacrifice the profit, but we wanted maximum impact. So a very niche type of impact investor, which would make it more challenging to find companies. But in the end, we always found good companies to invest in. So what we would look at, so first of all, like all my investment team colleagues were inherently trained on that, we would look at impact. So we would assess, does this company create goods or services that are benefiting lower income customers? So this was our impact thesis. That had to be there. Whether it was a healthcare company in India, which would provide very low cost operate surgery to people, or maybe a company that would provide education or vocational training for students. Or in Cambodia, we had a company which would provide piped water to rural households, which wouldn't have piped water otherwise, would have to collect physically. So once we met with entrepreneurs and listening to their pitch, first thing we want to know is this company impactful in their own community, nation? And so after that was checked as a yes, we would proceed to looking at the business in business terms. So is your business model scale? Like it didn't matter if it was profitable to begin with. So sometimes, especially with the small ticket investors, so I'm not talking about millions, but more like $50,000, $100,000, and there's also smaller ones. There's a whole hierarchy. But so at the beginning, it doesn't matter if you're profitable or not. If you're generating revenue, definitely a plus. But I think if you're a new company, what matters is, do you have a plan to scale? So is your good or service has potential to scale? And also, I think what we would look at, and most investors look at, is the team. So the founding team, and I think especially, and again, I'm a bit biased, sorry, because I worked in private equity. Again, I'm getting a bit technical here, but there's ways to invest where you do equity, so you buy a company share, or you do debt, which is more of the loan and credit side of things. So coming from equity, we valued a lot the investment, like the company founding team, the entrepreneurs, the C-suite level people, because we would work with, like, they were the ones responsible for making the company grow and to engage with us. So for us, it was very important to make sure that it was a very strong team to start with.
Do you did you also consider the factor of the background of the founders or co-founders, their educational background, their experience? So several you mentioned that maybe in the beginning profit is not a factor to consider primarily, but how do you trust that? Say for example, there are lots of fancy ideas coming up that we want to do that, we'll do this, that, but how do you actually measure that initially, that this is going to scale or this is going to really create an impact? And in that case, whether how important it is to have the background of the founders or co-founders, according to you?
Yeah, so this is an assessment that would fall onto my colleagues from the investment team. I wasn't directly involved with that, but I know for sure that they would definitely scan through the founder's background thoroughly, exactly, to make sure that they were credible, that they perhaps had the right connections. Obviously, I mean, academic background is one, but more also, I think they would value a lot hands-on experience. So if they had worked with other startups before, even if they failed, but they could prove like, I have experience here. So we always ended up investing in founders that had a very strong network and background in the field where they were at. Sometimes we reinvested in the same founders, which, you know, a decade later founded a new company. And that made the investment process way easier because we already knew who they were and we trusted them. And so it was more about, yeah, we just look at the business model now. But we have no doubts that you all are a very trustable founder to work with. So yeah, your background is very relevant.
Perfect. Yeah, you have been to different countries for work purpose. So, like, how does understanding cultural differences play a role in your work, especially in diverse countries like Cambodia and Myanmar?
Yeah. Now, obviously, very important when we talk about, yeah, creating impact, because it can mean different things in different countries. There's different priorities, different gender norms, cultural norms. So the way I really enjoyed with my previous impact fund I was working with, and I think should be the rule for all, would be to have people like colleagues in those countries, from those countries, that can really understand in great detail the context. So it can't be me going to Myanmar for the first time and doing my assessment because I have no prior knowledge. So I will work with my colleagues from Myanmar to understand from them what are, yeah, the cultural norms and what it means to create impact there. And then together we would do assessments, come up with ideas and solutions to make it even bigger. But obviously, because it means different things in different countries, you want to be very careful and not impose your own assumptions of what is good, what is fair, but really
Absolutely.
collaboratively with the communities there and your colleagues, which will have the best possible context to inform you.
Great. And like internship, as you mentioned earlier, here in most cases, how students see it is just a time pass. For this, like a 3 months period, they will just they will go around, they will just pass the time and hang out in the offices and stuff. Rather, like missing a great opportunity, as there is like number of unemployment rate is going higher because of gap of skilled workforce, skilled staff, human resources. Whereas there is a lot of like misconception about that there is no job, so the unemployment rate is higher. So internship for students, like is a great opportunity to showcase their skill. If they have a weakness in different skills, to make it strong, to strengthen those skills. So, and in your case, like you did your internship, but in a different country. So first, I would like to know what made you take this decision to pursue your internship in different country, and how important it is to do an internship and really learning from it to get entry to professional sector.
Thanks. Why did I choose to go abroad? I mean, I think I was just very curious and I mean, wanting to have fun to explore new places. So a combination of, like personal growth and professional. Um, and also because of the thematics I was interested in, I studied in Sweden, in Europe. So what I wanted to do was not necessarily accessible in Europe. So um, I found this opportunity in Cambodia with a UN agency back then. Um, so yeah, I guess a mix of curiosity and randomness. But in terms of like value of an internship, definitely, I think it's it's incredibly important Because to get the foot in the door when you're mid-career, I think it's a bit more difficult for many reasons, of like maybe lack of mid-career roles, but more junior or very senior. Um, and at the same time, maybe that's not, if you want to enter mid-career into a new space, but at that point in time, maybe you have more financial responsibilities at home to take care of. You wouldn't necessarily be happy to agree to a lower pay just because your skills are not there yet. So with an internship, you're kind of you might be more comfortable, starting with a lesser pay, but the investment really is not like financial return, but skills return, right? So when you're younger, obviously, it's ideal to do that more so than when you're a bit less young and have more responsibilities outside of work. So, I mean, I think it makes sense from these admin point of views, but really, when you're young and like you're fresh from university and very passionate, that's when you might be really in that state of mind where you're like very absorptive, like you can absorb a lot of knowledge, you have all the energy to go out and network and do more than what you're supposed to, but for the sake of learning. Less tired, again, if you're in a different phase of life with other things aside of work. So definitely internships, I think it's the best way to really build up your skill set and your network, your very first network, which will stay with you. Like I am still in touch with the people that I met in my first internship, and we keep in touch. Very special. So I would definitely do that. More than 3 months if possible. Financially, obviously, sometimes it's a privilege to be able to do an internship just because not everyone pays. But if you can, like the more you stay, because 3 months, that's when you just get around to understanding.
It's just a blink of eye, and it's just gone.
But then 6 months, maybe that makes sense. And then if you're lucky and you work well and the company has the resources to keep you on board, then they would offer you a job because they can't have you underpaid forever. So after 6 months, you might break even and have that long if the stars align.
Great. So it is a pleasure to start that pilot program from School of Entrepreneurship Development. It's not about 3 months or 6 months. Students were from the first day of entering to the university, they can start the internship. So we have done our first pilot of a global internship program. So students being at home, they can, sorry, so they can, just okay. So from their first day from the university, they can sitting at their home or their dorm, they can start doing an internship for an international startup or organization. And start, it's like you throw someone into the water and they're trying to survive and learn how to swim, stuff like that. So, and associating themselves, so before their graduation, if a student one, they can do more than 10 or 15 internships, because 6 weeks long internship, or if they can extend the period. So the point is, anyone from at any point of their time can engage themselves with opportunities and associations. You have mentioned, which is very important, I must say, that like-minded people, you reach out to them, you follow them, learn from them. So this is a continuous learning. Just if you just go and work, that is it. If you don't go to networking events or like-minded people to learn, do not form any group, or without being a part of any group, you'll be alone in the professional sector. So this learning mentality and mindset is very important. So the point that you mentioned is, yes, whether it's 3 months, is definitely 6 months or 3 months. They should utilize it to create, peers, connections, and showcase their skills with that. So another thing you mentioned, mentorship. So how important it is for students, especially, to have mentors, and how students can actually utilize uh, by having mentors their student life to after graduation to success to get entry faster in their professional career.
Thanks. And this is something I actually regret. So hopefully I can give better feedback. I never really had a formal mentor. I've had like good like figures throughout my journey in the different phases of like university and then first jobs and then so on. But never really had like a consistent mentorship path. And I think that could be really like only now I started. I think I officially asked someone just a couple of months ago, would you be interested in like in being my mentor? And again, it's not like a huge commitment that someone would be super scared of. Like if they have the time, it could be a pleasant two-way partnership. So no, just to say, like I think it's very valuable to have someone senior that has done their own journey to be able to have that presence when you have doubts, when you feel lost, because that happens. Yeah, so you can access that, and maybe they don't have all the answers, but they can give you different directions to explore, or yeah, just nice feedback that will help you make the choices that you need to make. Yeah, when you feel stuck, lost, or just to validate what you're doing.
Yeah,
So definitely very important.
absolutely. And also the way they should approach is important. It's like, hey, would you like to be my mentor? Please help me. Please. Sometimes people actually, it's not about begging. It's they have to sell actually. Like if, say, for example, if I would like to get mentorship from you, then I will definitely study your expertise, and then I'll match my passion or the sector I would like to explore. Then
Exactly.
I'll send an email or reach out through LinkedIn, not through Facebook primarily, or
Yeah,
other
you
social
would.
medias.
Yeah.
And
Um,
then by explaining why you would be a best fit for as a mentor and how much time uh, do I require from you or stuff like that, then definitely maybe one, two, or three people will definitely value that, because what we have seen in last 6 years of our operations is almost everyone around the world really like to, it doesn't matter whether they are, really like to support university students, especially because they were a student once, and they always based on their availability, it can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, they always give back to the universities or students in whatever way they can. So this is what we have found so far. So everyone is almost everyone is similar. So the way they should have been approached is very important. So to study why they want to be mentored by them is very important. So students should study and match their passion and portray as a very in a simple way how they want to be get mentored. This is very important as well.
I
So
agree.
we are almost at the end of the session. There's so much to discuss, but we'll publish a detailed answer write up in our blog, so students will learn more from there. So if you are a student today, so what are the skills you would like to you would develop?
Um, Similarly to what I've done and I'm continuing to do is staying up to date. Like, don't think that once you've learned something, that's it. So yeah, I think the takeaway would be we're in continuous evolution. The market and the field is in continuous evolution. Like every couple of months, there's new regulations on what sustainability means and what are the indicators for that. So skills is being able to find the right platforms where you're up to date, whether that's groups on LinkedIn or a newsletter, or being a member of certain societies or meeting with people regularly. But so learning how to follow what are the evolutions in that particular sector you're interested in. So you're always up to date, and you can find your uniqueness in what you want to do, and fill the gaps that are there. Hope that
Perfect.
answers.
And students who would like to explore their career in sustainable finance sector, so what are the key skills they should develop being a student right now?
I think there's courses on impact investors online, like on Coursera, but also, so the most important or renowned, let's say, website/network for impact investors is the GIN. It's spelled GIIN, and even on there are courses free to learn what this is. So general knowledge of that, I think, would be the base, the foundation. And then depending on, again, the roles that I spoke of that you want to be in, do you want to do the numbers, so the financial modeling, then you would learn financial modeling and work with Excel. If you want to do more of what I do, which is the environmental and social assessments, then you want to study ESG. And there are, again, free courses for that, and then there's certifications for that, if that's something you want to pursue. So I would say general foundational knowledge, and then more niche specific topics depending on what you're interested in.
Absolutely. So, it's just the effort, the resources, mentors, peoples, everyone is there to support students. So it's up to students. They have to decide, and they have to choose, and they have to act. Like everyone is there in our fingertip. So resources, information, courses. So it's up to them, or they want to learn, which sector they want to explore, and then based on that they can find mentor in the really relevant field. They should develop skills, and they should explore.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Francesca, for this wonderful and engaging and very informative session. We've
Thank
learned
you
a
for
lot,
the
and
invite. All the best for
and
everyone. Yeah.
visit Bangladesh, and absolutely, it's a pleasure to have you, and to learn a little bit about sustainable finance, because this is going to be very popular around the world. Already popular, but very popular, more and more, and especially in Bangladesh, this sustainable finance term is growing. People are knowing about it, so it's great to have you and learn from you. It's a learning opportunity for me as well. So we, on behalf of School of Entrepreneurship Development, we'd like to wish you very best of luck, and you continue excel in your career, and visit Bangladesh again.
No, thank you so much, and really good luck to everyone. I'm on LinkedIn if anyone is curious to learn more. But all the best. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.